Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Art of Life podcast. This is where we discuss how you can step into your best life and how you can really have those transformations in an easy, practical manner. So, today I have a very juicy topic for you. I am an Akashic Records reader and healer, and I thought I would just do an episode on Akashic Records. What are they? What can we do with them? And so on. So let's dive right in. These are questions that my members or clients will usually ask me. So I've compiled a list of the most frequently asked questions, and that is what we're going to tune into today. So, first question is obviously, what are the Akashic Records really? I believe that some of us have heard about the Akashic Records. There might be others who have not heard at all. So, what the hell are Akashic Records? Now, how I like to explain this is that Akashic Records are your soul's library of everything that's ever happened. Now, your soul is like the bigger part of you, and I'll just get to that in a minute. The Akashic Records are the library of anything and everything that's happened to you in this lifetime or other lifetimes across any dimension or plane. So think of your life right now, you in your physical body, like me sitting in front of you is Kanika here, and my lifetime here. But my Akashic records would hold the information of Kanika, which is this physical body right now, and they would also hold information about all the other forms that I've had. So I could have been a human, I could have been a non human. Whatever I decided to do, it holds all of that information. So, why is this really beneficial? It's so beneficial because it pieces your entire story together. So, on this planet, on Earth, if I just look at my lifetime and I try and understand why certain things are happening, I might have a little bit of understanding, but I might not have a bigger or a fuller understanding. I'll give you a few examples, right? Like if I am trying to understand some patterns around money, for example. Now, I would have limited visibility as well based on how money shaped up in my life. I can probably ask my parents and understand what was happening in the families before. But, there's a certain point where we don't know beyond that because they would not have that contact with those grandparents, grandfathers, or even the full story. What we get passed on is not always the accurate truth. So that visibility is limited. And I also don't know, this is just my lifetime here, right? So I would be able to connect with my parents and I would be able to connect with some of my family members. But I don't know as a soul what all I've been up to. So my family, for example, could be very rich or whatever experiences they have with money. But I could also have other lifetimes where I've lost money, where money was snatched from me, or where I just did not have money and I really had to struggle. I did not have food to eat, etc. Right? When you tap into the Akashic records, you really start understanding this bigger, fuller picture about why there is a certain pattern with anything in your life, whether that is relationships or money or your career and so on. So there are multiple dimensions, there's multiple facets of your story, so to speak, each one of them being fragments from your lifetimes. And all of that is contained in the Akashic records. So when you tune into the Akashic records, it's like having a much more colorful, fuller picture of you. Because whatever you want to understand, literally you could go out and understand that the Akashic records is just so vast, it's so intensive. It will hold information about your galactic lifetimes. So, lifetimes when you haven't been on Earth, but you've been on other planets. Especially star seeds will really associate to this. If you are feeling like you don't really belong to Earth, or if you feel like you don't really fit in, people think a certain way and you don't, then chances are that you have not just had lifetimes on Earth, you have been born on other planets across other dimensions and planes as well. And understanding that will help you understand what is the bigger piece of why you are here. Why did you choose this 3D reality? Why did you choose to come on Earth? Why did you choose to have this lifetime here? But even if you have not been a star seed, it still helps to understand because it helps you to understand your karmic patterns. So maybe you are experiencing a very troubled relationship with one of your loved ones, and you don't really understand why. You're at the rough receiving end and it's just painful. And then if you dive down in your past lives, you could see, oh, maybe there was a lifetime where you had killed this person or you had mistreated them and you were just doing a payback in this lifetime. So it helps to understand the bigger picture of your incarnations, understand what's really going on, because then you can go, this is why. But that's not the only thing. Like, of course, Akashic Records can be used for reading. I also recommend that we use them for healing as well, because this awareness is good enough. Yes, you would understand the patterns, but you can heal them, you can evolve from them as well. Whatever karmic patterns you have with a relationship, especially toxic relationships or those love and hate relationships where you're not able to get off from the person, but you are really sort of sucked in, and there is just something where you just keep coming back and coming back to the same person, they're usually karmic. And all that energy can be drained off because it's just energy from your past lifetime. Once you have that learning, once that clearing is done, you can be free from those karmic ties. There are energetic ties that can tie you to past lives, which you do not even have awareness about. There can be some darker entities that would have entered into your space at some point in time. And when you remove those, there's a whole lot of space that you create for yourself. Like, really, it's almost like kicking chains out and just expanding your shell, expanding the space where you can have more of what you want. Think of stuff such as your desires, and then where you're not really able to do your desires, like particularly things that you really, really want to do, and you know that there's a deeper calling. So that's most likely your soul purpose, that is your deeper calling. But stuff that you're not able to do still, like maybe you want to spread awareness about something, you want to speak out, you want to start a podcast, you want to write about something, and it is truly your desire, like you really think about it all the time, but you're not able to do it because there's something that's standing in the way. And usually, what I see with that is a witch wound, some lifetimes where you were punished for just having your own voice, punished for using your gifts. So once we clear that, usually your sense of self expression that just really explodes. Self worth is a lot that most of the humans are dealing with. Self worth, self belief, like, hey, do I believe in me? Can I really do this idea? Can I really trust myself? And the answer to a lot of these problems lies in the Akashic Records, because as a pure divine soul, as that incarnation, you carry that energy. You are divine. Anything and everything that you dream of is possible. But if there are limits where you think that this is not possible, then that is because there was some point, something that came in and just intercepted that. So there was either some imprint, there was some scarring, there was perhaps maybe even some black magic or things like that that were done to you, or even implants that were done in your space that really muffled that whole signal for you, that muffled that whole communication. Ways to think about, or symptoms, let's say, could be if you feel like you're not trusting yourself fully, that I've already talked about, or things such as you're just not trusting that life is working out for you. That's a very big one. Most of us don't think that life's working out for us. Most of us think that this life is like a grind, life has to be a grind. And that is very much disconnection from the universe as such, because universe is total flow. And if you feel that life's not working out for you, or if you accept that, if there's some form of lack that you feel you have to operate in, whether in a relationship or whether with money or whether on a day to day, like this is the constraint that you have to live in, then that is just disconnect from the total flow of life. That is disconnect from the total flow in the universe. So when you tap into the Akashic Records, you can tune into why that's really happening. I'll give you examples of certain client readings or certain core issues that I've worked with, and then that will explain what can be done in the Akashic Records. So I've helped clients get away from addiction patterns. They could be addicted to porn, they could be addicted to just smoking, drinking, addicted to multiple sexual relationships. And it's like they need sex. And that is usually tied to some point where they were imprinted with that lack in them, whether that is this lifetime or previous lifetimes, and that can be healed in the Akashic records. Other examples can be connecting with your loved ones, because they also hold library of all the incarnations of your loved ones as well. And so within your Akashic library itself, you would also have information about your partner. You would also have information about your children, about your past partners, future partners, your loved ones, even if they've passed away. And so if you really want to connect with them, you can do that there. Now, this is different from a spiritual connection. This is different from the channeling experience, and I'll explain that in a minute. But in your own Akashic records, you have information about your key relationships, because before you come in on this planet, there are soul agreements, there's certain things that are defined, and then everything that is happening in that relationship, it all gets documented in the Akashic records, which is what you can tap into. Now, when you are channeling, you are actually accessing their higher self. When you're connecting with their spirit, you're connecting with their higher self, with their spirit, and getting information from that directly. You might be able to ask for permission to open someone else's Akashic records as well. Like you might be able to open Akashic records of your kids, of your loved ones, and get more information from there. But in your own field, you'll have limited information or access to information that really relates with you. Let me break that down. So let's say you are with your partner and you want to understand why your partner gets triggered around a certain topic, right? That information will exist in your Akashic records. And if your partner wants to share with you, you would have more information depending on the openness in your relationship. But if you're tuned into your partner's Akashic records, they will have their whole information around all the incarnations they've had, around when they got born as a human or the other lifetimes as well. It carries all of that information. But in this lifetime, you might not need to know all of that, and hence you might not have access to all of that information. You might just have access to a subset of that information, so to speak, because that's how it relates to you as a partner. So I hope that clarifies that bit. Okay, let me look at the other question. Yes, I said that I'd explain soul in just a little minute. So let's talk about soul. Let's talk about what is your soul and what is your highest self, right? I would ask you to imagine an apple. Just bear with me. It's funny, I know, but just bear with me. Think of an apple and then imagine that you have sliced it down into like 1,000 or 2,000 slices. And so one slice of this is your current lifetime, just as a metaphor, just to explain that your soul is this encompassing soul spirit that is actually active across multiple dimensions and planes, even right now, even as you are listening to this podcast right now. So when we look at one lifetime, when I'm just looking at my incarnation as Kanika, I'm just tuning into one single slice of that really big, huge apple. And this is just the tiniest fraction of that whole apple, right? And soul is going out and it's having all these experiences across so many multiple dimensions. So maybe there are times where I'm becoming a dolphin. I know there have been lifetimes where I've worked across galaxies as an intergalactic being and helped people across that, or helped, well, those galaxies as such. So your soul has a whole amount of knowledge. Now, why you don't have that in your body is because imagine this tiny mind having all of that information. It just would not be able to handle that information. Your mind will go into an overdrive. That's why you do not have access to everything. As a human being in the daily functioning world, we have our brains, our minds, and we just have access to whatever limited thing that we need to do. Like all the regular things that you need to do, there's a limited information that gets stored in our mind. And hence, that is why when we tune into our subconscious mind, whether that is through meditation or whatever other practice that you do, you are then able to tune in and tap in into the higher consciousness and then get guidance that way. So this is your soul. Soul is the whole apple, right? Soul is The entire experience that you were having, it is your awareness about, let's say, life on Earth. It's your awareness about life on different galaxies. It is really the learning, evolution, experiences across multiple timelines, across multiple dimensions, across multiple planes. And there would be varied variety of experiences that you have. There would be lifetimes where you or someone else would have done wars. There would have been lifetimes where we would have done intergalactic wars. There would have been lifetimes where we've gone out and learned a form of healing. There would have been lifetimes where we've not really incarnated in the body, but just been as a spirit and helped others or not helped others, been on the darker side, because that was our soul's idea to evolve. That is how, as a soul, we learn, we evolve. Now, very important distinction here. We generally look at some of the darker side of things and we go like, oh, that is wrong and that is negative. Whereas for a soul, it's simply learning. So sometimes soul and your lifetimes would have been where you have done darker things to learn, to evolve, even when there have been lifetimes where, let's say, you've killed people, where you've taken things away from people, that is also a way of learning. That remorse can be a way of learning. That whole experience can be a way of learning. So, for the soul, all of these lifetimes, they are just experiences. And hence, that's why you hear people saying that, oh, for the soul, soul's pure positive, soul's not really judging whether you're doing something right or wrong. It is humans who make that judgment. Soul doesn't. For soul, it's an experience. As a soul, or why you come on earth, there is a mission, there is a purpose that you have for your lifetime. Soul will just try and keep bringing up those experiences again and again so that you can really evolve and really graduate into whatever experience you wanted to have here, whatever learning you want to have here. So that's your soul. The soul is the whole big apple. And now, higher self and lower self, just to have the terminologies okay. Higher self is the higher part of you. Higher self is the one that is taking the high road, just the same way as you would have your lower self as well, the one that could feel a lot sadder, the one that could be in shame, that could be operating from all of those lower vibrations. So, usually, when we tap into the Akashic Records, and Akashic Records are a very high frequency. So, when you are there, when we tap in the higher self, we are really tuning in with your inner light. We're understanding what is it you want to do, where is it you want to go, what is the direction. So, that higher self is guiding that whole journey. And hence, when we tune into the higher self, we tune into the Akashic Records that way, we're really able to understand what is it you need to do. Your next steps become very clear. We can have a better picture of your timelines, future timelines. We can have a better picture of the steps that need to happen. You can make quantum jumps. You can really have a much fuller healing because your higher self is there. And your higher self is really helping you get to that space because your higher self and your soul, they definitely want you to learn whatever they want you to learn, whatever your mission for earth is, they really want to support you on that. So when you're doing an Akashic record and healing, first of all, it is just a big healing simply because you are getting connected with your higher self, and your higher self is just so thankful that you are there, because this is the time when they can really bring in all the higher vibration. They can clean out the confusion that gets you off track, that gets you down different journeys that the soul doesn't want, but it can really help you go on the path that you were meant to do in this lifetime anyway. And hence, simply tuning into the Akashic Records is a big healing by itself. So, how do we then understand like our purpose or mission, why you came here? Now, to bear in mind, sometimes that question can be a little bit different than what you expected as well, because there's something called a soul purpose, and then there's something called your heart's desires. You might notice that in your life as well, that there's certain things that you're trying to manifest, and they just are a grind. Like you really, really have to put a lot of effort to get there. And then there are certain things that are just easier. So maybe you are wanting to write a book, it's a children's book, and you really want to do it. Children really excite you. Your message is very exciting, but the book is somehow just not happening. And then another day you have an idea and you go, I don't want to do this children's book anymore, but I do want to write this nonfiction book on dragons, let's say. And then lo and behold, and that book, you just start writing and ideas start flowing, and your book seems to go really well and you're able to publish it. What is the difference? What really happened? The thing is that there's some things which are your soul's purpose. There's some things which can be your heart's desires. So the children's book might, in this case, just have been your heart's desire. So that is fueled by this body. And when you do that, you might not always have your higher self support. Now, if you still want to do that, if you still want to really write the children's book, that is what you want, it can still be helpful to be in the Akashic Records, because then you can talk with your higher self, you can get the guidance, and you can get other energy sources to really help you to be able to supercharge your speech, to clear obstacles on the space, and so that your journey can be a lot smoother. And when you're writing a children's book, that can be a whole lot easier. Now, if things are on your soul's purpose, again, it does not always mean that they're going to be easy, because it might have energetic imprints as well. So it's good to clear out those interferences between the lifetimes as well. Yep, there's also this thing where you have interferences even between lifetimes. So when you're born, that is one thing, but in between the next birth, in between the next incarnation, there can be interferences there as well. So when you're looking at the soul's purpose, when you're clearing out that energy, you're also able to clear out the interferences and the negative imprints between all of that. And hence, your direction, your path becomes a lot quicker and a lot more faster and easier and enjoyable. All right. This next question is, how do the Akashic records differ from intuition or psychic readings? And I think I explained a little bit of that already in the previous answers. They differ from intuition and psychic readings because the intuitive readings, psychic readings will only go so far. The view, how you're looking at things, is literally still from the earth level, right? That's what you were zooming into. Whereas in the Akashic records, you're literally high up, you're able to see everything about what's happened. And so think of it as the difference between the view from the dance floor, like where you are thick in the middle of action and just trying to understand the whole picture from the dance floor. And then Akashic Records is like being on the balcony. And from the balcony, you're observing everything. So everything's a lot more clearer. You can see why something happened a lot more clearly because you can see a lot more characters. You can see multiple timelines where the story has been repeated or shifted. So you can really understand a much bigger picture when you look at the Akashic Records themselves. Well, let's look at the next question then. Is it possible to access past lives through the records? Absolutely, like I talked about it. And then can I ask about my future, or is that off limits? Now, this question comes because a lot of times we say your past, that's sort of done, but your future really depends because it is a creating mode. You are really operating as a creator, you are creating your life, and hence you can really change it. So, my answer to looking at the future is a little bit yes and no, and I'll explain. So, let's say you want to really sell your house and get a great deal of money for that, and you are coming and asking, hey, Kanika, when can I sell this house? Now, the when is a little bit difficult to answer because as much as I can see and I can tune into your Akashic records, I'll look at your highest timeline. I'll see, okay, this is what you are doing. This is what you're meant to do to sell your house. And these are the obstacles in your way. We clear all those obstacles. We see, so we will see, okay, when you are selling, how are you selling? What is the way that you are selling? We can see all of that, right? But there is an energy shift in between. So there's an energy shift from point A or timeline A, where you are now, to this timeline B, where you have sold your house. Now, there's a difference between this A and B. Now, it's up to you how fast you shift. There will be guidance that comes through in the reading, and you can take it very fast, and you can jump to timeline B in 2 months, 3 months, even the next day. It's totally up to you because you are the creator. It is up to you how much you are integrating the things in your body and how fast you're able to act on the advice that has been given to you. Usually, that is how fast are you able to really peel off layers of yourself clear those limiting beliefs in the body, because there's so much that is being done energetically, right? For example, if it's around self worth and if it's around believing that, okay, I can do this, I can step into a new business, I can really do this, you might be able to do that just the next morning. Great. Some people might need to take a little bit longer and really take steps to get there. And hence, this question of future, while we can see the future and we can see what your future timeline or your highest timeline will look like, the when really depends on you. Because how fast are you able to then take that guidance and incorporate it into your life? Really, truly own it, live it, breathe it. That's the difference. Now, what I do when I look at the future timeline is I definitely ask the Akashic record keepers and the guides to show me what the future timeline looks like. So, what is the highest timeline? How far off am I from that? I usually ask the record keepers and the guides to show me the highest timeline to really clarify that picture, because I often see that that helps the clients really integrate that. Once you have clarity over what the future looks like, that is really helpful in terms of really bringing it down to your body and anchoring it inside you. And then I also ask, what is it that needs to be done and that needs to be released? So there will be things that you need to bring into your life, things that you need to add into your life. Usually those can be smaller things, they can be bigger things, they can be some empowering beliefs, they can be some new ideas, they can be some new habits that you need to implement. And then there's stuff that you need to release as well. Because for the new higher vibration to come in, you need to also release to be able to make space for that new idea or for that quantum jump that you're wanting to make. And hence, I ask for that release and I give you very clear guidance around what is it that you do need to release, very specific to you, so that you can have that shift for yourself. If I'm talking about things around letting go, they are usually lots of big energy drainers. So, where you are putting in your energy, but it's not really giving you anything else out. So, endless social media scrolling, things that are not really raising your vibration, things that are not really empowering you, things that are not really giving you anything, but they are sucking away energy. Sometimes it could be things like coffee or wine or drinks, because they're just taking away your energy, but you're not really getting the output in that sense. There could be certain friends, there could be certain family members where you're just spending a lot of time, or when even times where you're just talking about an idea a lot, but you're not really implementing, you're not really doing it. And that could be the difference. Like, don't talk about it, just do it. So, all those energy draining things usually tend to be in that part where you want to understand what is it that gets you to your highest timeline? What is it that helps you create the future that you want to have? All right. And then, last question that I'll cover in today's episode is, can I clear karmic patterns or soul contracts using the Akashic Records? Totally. Totally. And this is the best way and recommended ways in which I use the Akashic Records as well, because you don't need to do a time loop again and again and again. Like for me, for example, I really found that coming to my power, I kid you not, I repeated this lifetime almost like 200 times because I was understanding how do I rise into my power. So before this, I just had lots and lots of lifetimes where I was always in a position of less power. I was always serving, I was always just looking after others. I was so deprioritizing myself that just to learn to be empowered to speak from a place where I stand and I have an existence, I just needed to do that at least 200 times. But you can always clear that out with just the karmic pattern clearing, which is, of course, what I did in this lifetime as well. But you can clear those karmic patterns out. If you're feeling that there's certain things, themes that repeat in your life, like it is very hard for you to earn money, or you feel that within you, your life and your family's life, there is a theme around relationships, like relationships are troubled, or there is a theme around being a single parent, then that is definitely something that is a karmic contract at your end or your family's end. Sometimes we carry ancestral karma as well. And then there's soul contracts that we have, people where you might be having a very on off relationship, people you don't like, people you hate. And if they're not in alignment with you, if they're not really helping you, then you do not need that. And definitely that can be cleared in the Akashic Records. So when you tap into the Akashic Records, you just set that intention and just clear out those karmic patterns and you clear out those soul contracts. And then you experience that whole lot of shift. Like I call it an energetic shift. My clients will usually feel like, oh, I can breathe better. And usually they don't even know how to explain that. But it is literally that your body breathes better because you just have more energetic space because a whole lot of gunk that existed in your space that has been cleared out. So you feel that shift with yourself that you can just breathe more. And once you're out of the session, then there's almost like life changing experiences that happen afterwards. I've had clients who've gone off some drugs because they were medically diagnosed with something. But once we cleared out the root cause, then their thyroid gland just healed by itself and they didn't need the thyroid medication anymore. There have been other examples where people have built more loving relationships with their partners because it was just the energetic chaos in between that was making the everyday conversations a lot more painful. And once we clear all of this, once we clear the implants, once we clear those soul imprints, these soul scars, then often both the parties, they're really coming in from a much more neutral, much more whole, much more unconditional love space. And so there's a lot more space and a lot more allowance for relationships to flourish. So you will often find that Akashic Records readings and healings, they can be super beneficial, especially if there's a time where you're feeling like life's really stuck or you're just going on a loop again and again, then an Akashic Records reading and healing is definitely something to check out. So I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I will continue this episode around the Akashic Records in the next one as well. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to write in the comments. I will be more than happy to incorporate them in the next episode. If you found this episode helpful, then I would love to have a review because it definitely helps spread the word. Share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you would like to hear more conversations like this. I will bring you another episode of the Art of Life podcast very soon where we will delve into some other mystical topic and really break it down step by step for you. So, see you again next time. Keep smiling.